When the Switch first came out, I was hesitant to buy it. As crazy as that sounds now, other than Breath of the Wild, I didn't have any games I was itching to play. But then I heard about this one game, a mash of 3D and 2D fighters, where you could play Pikachu, Charizard, and Mewtwo. I bought the Switch, and the rest is history. To me, it seemed so obvious that the concept of Pokken Tournament was perfect. Instead of just commanding your Pokemon like in the main series games, now you get to do the fighting. The game looks phenomenal, and dare I say it, it's the best looking Pokemon game of all time. While selling over 1 million copies, many still consider it to have been a failure relative to other Pokemon games. And I have to admit, after my initial spurt of obsession with the game, I haven't played it much. However, with a new generation of Nintendo console on the way, I thought it would be fun to talk about Pokken Tournament 2 and my hopes for the game. My first hope for the game is character unlocks. In the game, you just start with the entire roster already unlocked, but I feel like this is really anti-Pokemon. Like, the main appeal of the main series games is catching your Pokemon and bonding with them, but having all the Pokemon already unlocked, it makes it feel like they're not your Pokemon. Like, they're just some random fighter you get to choose. They're not like your best buddy who you struggle through the Indigo League with. That's a pretty simple fix. Maybe they could add a larger roster, but other than that, just slowly as you play through the game, every couple battles, kind of like Smash, you can just unlock a new Pokemon if you can beat them. I think it'd be a really quick way to add more depth into the game. So for my second hope, it's kind of building off of the last one. I think that Pokken should introduce evolution into the game. Now, this is definitely my biggest point, but the idea is that as you slowly play through the game, your Pokemon will start as this cute little cat and eventually make its way into the monstrous beast that we know it is. Again, I just want to make it so that you bond more with your Pokemon and they feel like yours. I just really want to make sure that this game isn't just a Street Fighter or a Tekken with Pokemon skins, but it's an honest Pokemon game with all the mechanics that you'd come to expect from a main series one. Another simple aesthetic thing that I think could really add some more Pokemon-ness to this Pokemon game is custom moves. The idea is that instead of support Pokemon, which right now you get to choose 2 support Pokemon to bring into battle with you, instead you get to choose custom moves. These custom moves would just replace support Pokemon, but instead of support Pokemon where you get to just choose them while you're selecting your character, you have to assign those custom moves to your Pokemon beforehand, and you'd also have to unlock them beforehand. Not like you just get access to every custom move, like you get access to every support Pokemon. Okay, I know I've done a lot of aesthetic stuff, but let's talk about something that is a bit more gameplay. One of the most divisive aspects of the first Pokken was that it was a 2D and a 3D fighter, and a lot of people did not like that. Personally, I thought it was pretty cool, but I can see how some people could get turned off by the dual phase and the field phase and keep switching. So I think in the next Pokken, there should just be an option to not switch, to only be in the dual phase the whole time, and to not have to deal with any of the field phase type of stuff. It really wouldn't change anything. I'm sure competitive would still keep switching from phase to phase, but if you're just playing casually with your friends, you can play however you want. So I think that the game should at least give them the option to do so. But something that would impact competitive play is if you could switch out your Pokemon anytime you wanted. Right now, competitive uses the team battle format. Basically, you choose 3 Pokemon, and every time one of them gets knocked out, you move on to the next one. However, I think it'd be really cool is if you didn't only have to switch out when your Pokemon got knocked out, you could switch out halfway through your Pokemon's health. The way I see it working is that it would incentivize you to switch out if you had a bad type advantage. Say you had a Charizard and they had an Empoleon, well, maybe switch to your Decidueye and then you'd have an advantage there. However, this would have to be balanced somehow. I think there'd be like a cooldown between switches, you couldn't like just switch back to back. It'd have to be like 15 or 10 seconds. Or maybe switching makes you really vulnerable. And because of that, you have to really take into account the risk versus reward. And it just adds another layer to mind games. I don't actually know if it would add an extra layer to mind games. I don't actually play Pokemon competitively. But I just think it'd be a really cool idea, and it would make it more like the anime. And I really like the anime, if you haven't noticed. For my sixth and final point, I think that Pokemon should have a hub world. I know it's just a glorified menu screen, but I think hub worlds really bring the game to life and give it some more character. What I really want to see is Charizard eating some cake, and Pikachu and Mewtwo, I don't know, chatting about the weather. And even better, I want to be able to interact with my Pokemon, even just give them a high five. Something simple to help bring that connection to life. Most of these hopes really aren't about the gameplay as much as they're about the packaging. And that's because the gameplay here is already solid. I think what made Pokken Tournament underperform was that it didn't appeal to mainline Pokemon fans, but with these changes making your Pokemon feel more like your partner, and overall just giving it a more Pokemon vibe, Pokken 2 will succeed where 1 could not. I genuinely think that these changes will help Pokken, and I really hope it does get a sequel on the Switch 2. Even better, actually, is if it can be a launch title for the Switch 2, you know? Pokken 2, Switch 2, I think it just works. And also, it needs some more love. Like, it started out on the Wii U, and then it had to be re-released on the Switch. There wasn't much, like, fanfare. This time, we can have crowds swarm enough to buy this game day one. I think that'd be really awesome. That's pretty much all I have to say. But thanks for watching, and you'll see me, or I'll see you, or something will happen, hopefully, on the next video.